Welcome back. Today we're discussing adaptive sports, and we're fortunate to be joined by Ashley Thomas, the founder and CEO of Bridge 2 Sports, an organization that offers a wide variety of sports opportunities to youth, adults, and veterans with disabilities. And Ashley, thank you so much for being here.
Well, I appreciate being here, Bill. It's a great opportunity to share the wonderful work that we do and the impact that we do through adaptive sport.
You know, and adaptive sports, I bet a lot of people haven't heard of it. So background, explain.
A little bit
for
of
us.
background. Okay,
Yeah.
So I was born with spina bifida. I was ambulatory, but I've had 6 hip replacements. I did go through school as everyone else did, and we had the Presidential Fitness Award, and I always failed at the leg work because there were no concessions made.
Sure.
So suffice to say, I was never on any sports teams. I wasn't in the marching band. There were just things physically I was not able to do. And I've had 3 children. They're all grown. I've lived in England for 7 years. But when I had my second hip replacement, cutting through muscles that were already weak gave me the privilege of using a wheelchair. And I want to say it like that because a lot of people use the word wheelchair bound. I don't like that word. You know, words do make differences. I think when we say bound, it's a very negative word. And when we see disability, often we associate negative thinking because we see limitations, but we don't see the tools that enable you to be successful. So a wheelchair for me, in my mind, I have a visual of a beautiful black racing horse. It is my steed, and my racing horse takes me everywhere. And I love my wheelchair because it is really what gave me the freedom to be able to go shopping with my daughter. It allowed me to go places. So the wheelchair really was a tool of freedom. And my daughter and I did my first 5K. I was 43, and I learned I was not a good teammate. I went to the YMCA, which when I was younger wouldn't allow me to go because I was too high risk, with a friend, and I trained, and I discovered so many things about myself. And I think that's the beauty of sport for everybody. And when you are able to grow up in school in embracing that as part of the developmental piece of humanity, I began going, man, if I had had this when I was a kid, and every kid should have this opportunity because this is wonderful. So I was doing quite a bit of work at Duke Children's Hospital at the Milo Clinic for Spina Bifida. And I decided, well, just going to start a nonprofit. We began starting adaptive sports with no adaptive equipment because you couldn't get grants because you didn't have a program. Well, we don't have a program because we don't have adaptive equipment. So we did begin, and then here we are, 18 years later from that time with many trailers, lots of adaptive equipment, and to a point now we can get some of the more specialized equipment that cost anywhere from $5,000 to $8,000 for people who may only be able to use one part of their body. But the beauty of what it does is it changes how one sees themselves. Because if you ask me, you will never hear me describe myself as disabled. But I do have limitations, and I live life very well with limitations. I do not live life disabled. That's the mental shift that we have the great privilege and honor of instilling in children and their families. And then obviously our veterans, when something horrible happens, life changes, and it's a hard shift. And I think it is through adaptive sports that we're able to really, in some ways, give life back.
I can see in talking to you and others that the impact of doing that is truly life-changing. I mean, how does that make you feel?
I never started this thinking what it would do for me. I mean, I just knew, boy, if I'd had it. So I think it is a great honor. It is, in my mind, when you have the privilege of seeing that mindset change, it's a miracle. I think when you think about children, the development of year after year gaining a skill, because if you're playing wheelchair basketball, first you got to figure out the chair. You got to figure out how to pass a ball, how to dribble a ball. And I remember when we started, no one had a ball for 6 months because we would have had utter mayhem with everyone hitting each other because no one had chair skills. And I think, when you're trying to think, what does it take to progress someone to that space, it takes time. And I think in our society, we want to see instant shifting overnight. And that's where we fail on the disability side, because kind of the mental games that go on, I'm not good enough, I can't do this, everyone else is getting better. You have surgeries. I've had more than 35 surgeries. I stopped counting them. One season, we had, out of our 70 kids, 15 had surgery in that year. And that's part of it. And as people, we can't get frustrated with the process of getting stronger. One of the things that makes me happiest is in our program, I think back in the early years, we have 2 young men who are running their own companies. 96% have gone on to college and are working. We have one as a professor. We have 2 that have done Paralympic teams. And I was talking with someone recently, and they were saying, in the world of adaptive sports, it's being a Paralympian. And they said, no, that's just part of it. It's living life well with limitations. And we think success is being this amazing athlete. But to me, success is all those people they have married, they're having families, and they're living what we perceive as a typical life. And that's the best part. We just finished Valor Games Southeast. This was our 11th year, and we had one athlete in particular. This was the year I got to see his eyes. So for 10 years, he always wore glasses, never knew his eyes. And when he came in and gave me a hug, and I saw his face, I went, well, something's happened, because he doesn't have to hide behind glasses anymore. And those are the small things. And if you're in the disability community, those are the small things you begin saying and respecting. If you need the boundary of having sunglasses on, you can have it. And there's no judgment here. But it was a huge success to see that very small thing.
That's
Absolutely.
what it's all about. Well, I can imagine. I mean, having to adapt with a wheelchair and dribble a ball. And I mean, I don't know how you do it, all right? So being able to do that, and then of course be successful at it and have fun at it.
Yes.
If you're living life and people are saying you can't do something, yet you're doing something that maybe you shouldn't be able to do, but you're still doing it.
Yes.
That's got to be a mind changer.
If someone ever tells me what I can't do, watch out.
Yeah, I'm not going to ever say that to you.
There is a way to do it. I want to say this to everybody. At some point in your life, you're going to need some sort of adaptation because we get old. Our society still as a whole does not create a community where we all can get to. And one of the things people go, but ADA. And I want to say ADA is a law that began a change. ADA in its rules are antiquated, and they don't facilitate enough to create real inclusion. What I would encourage people is, if you see something, say something. Become part of the advocacy so that the next person doesn't have to fight to get in. Because I will say, for a lot of people with disabilities, the reason they don't participate is they've just given up. And I make it look easy. I'm determined, I'm hard-headed, I'm stubborn. That's a gift I was given, and I do think that comes with disability. I coin it as it's a stubborn defiance.
You were looking for the right way to describe it.
Yes, I am.
Yes, I know, and I appreciate that.
Stubborn defiance, because you're saying to yourself, your mind, the body that you're limited within, I will not be defeated today.
If you happen to want to be part of the games, or want to get involved in another way, or just go watch and have fun, how do you do that?
We have a website, bridge2sports.org. You can go there and see what things are going on. We are looking for volunteers. We do have an application process. We do background checks. We do child safeguarding training. There's a lot of training that I do demand. But the fact is, there are many people who need the support. And my answer is, please come play with us.
Let's get a little more specific. What kind of sports are we talking about?
So I'd like to say to everyone, you can adapt any sport. So that's the first thing. So the sports that we do, wheelchair basketball, golf, bocce, cycling, goalball. And when I say all these, it supports people who are blind. In our cycling program, we have tandem cycles. So there's a pilot that helps. We also have people who have had a stroke, and they may be on a trike with a power assist to help them get up and down the trails. You may have someone on a hand cycle. So we do archery, air rifle. There's a plethora. We run multiple types of adaptive sports competitions, The next one we have coming up is a bocce competition. We'll be doing that in Cary. And then at NC State, we'll be hosting Old North State Classic. And in Rocky Mount, we're doing 3-on-3 wheelchair basketball, first ever women's 3-on-3 tournament. So one of the great things I think about having these types of events is you bring a community in from much farther, a national community. And when you are that person who may be going to work and you're that one person with that disability, you're now amongst a community.
Well, thank you for what you do. It's amazing. And I can see it in you and others that we've talked to that the impact is, well, you can't put it into words. You really can't.
It's life-changing.
It really is.
Yeah.
And I don't want you to go away because we have a lot more to talk about. We'll be right back.